Praise Church, brothers and sisters. Today's reading we are taking it from the book of Leviticus, chapter 11. We shall begin with chapter 11, verse 1 all through. We begin with chapter 11 talking about the clean and unclean food. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Say to the Israelites, all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has divided hoof and not chews cud. Therefore, there are some that are holy, chew the cud only, have divided hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews the cud, does not have divided hoof. It is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof, it is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof, it is unclean for you. And the pig, though it has divided hoof, does not chew cud, it is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. All the creatures living in water, of the seas and the streams you may eat any that has fins and scales, but all creatures that have fins and scales. But all creatures in the sea, all streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among the swarming things or all other living creatures in water, you are to regard as unclean. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. Anything in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean. Therefore, their birds, their birds you are to regard as unclean, and do not eat because they are unclean. Unclean: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, and the kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screen owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, and a kind of heron, the hawk, and the bat. All flying insects that walk on all four as regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of these you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper, but all those other flying insects that have four legs you are to regard as unclean. You will make yourselves unclean by these. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up any of their carcasses must wash their clothes. Whoever touches the carcasses of any of them will be unclean. All animals that walk on the fours, those that walk on their paws, are unclean for you. However, whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up any carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. These animals are unclean for you. Of all the animals that move along the ground, these are unclean for you: the weasel, the rat, the kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, chameleon, all of those that move along the ground. These are unclean for you. Whoever touches them, they are dead, will be unclean till evening. When one of them dies, falls on something, that article, whatever it is, will be unclean, whether it is made of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth. Put it in water, it will be unclean till evening, and then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean, and you must break the pot. Any food you are allowed to eat that has come into contact with water from such pot is unclean, and any liquid that is drunk from such a pot is unclean. Anything that one of their carcasses falls on becomes unclean. The oven or the cooking pot must be broken. They are unclean, and you are to regard them as unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern for collecting water remains clean, but for anyone who touches one of these carcasses is unclean. If a carcass falls on any of the seeds to be planted, they remain clean. But if water has been put on a seed and a carcass falls on it, it is unclean for you. If an animal that you have allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches its carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who eats some of its carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up a carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every creature that moves along the ground is to be regarded as unclean. It is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creature that moves along the ground, whether it moves on its belly or walks on its fours, or many of its feet. It is unclean. Do not defile yourselves by any of these creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean by means of them, or be made unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. You consecrate yourselves and you be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves along the ground. I am the Lord who brought you up out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore, be holy, because I am holy. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves about in water, and every creature that moves around the ground. You must distinguish between unclean and the clean, between living creatures and that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Move on to chapter 12, purification after birth. The Lord says to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as the unclean her during period. On the 8th day, the boy is to be circumcised. Then the woman must wait 33 days to be purified from her bleeding. She must not touch anything sacred or go to the sanctuary until the days of her purifications are over. If she gives birth to a daughter for 2 weeks, the woman will be unclean, as during her period. Then she must wait 66 days to be purified from her bleeding. When the days of purifications for a son or daughter are over, she is to bring the priest at the entrance of the tent to meet a young old lamb for burnt sacrifice, and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. He shall make them before the Lord to make atonement for her, and then she will be ceremonially clean from her own flow of blood. These are the regulations of a woman who gives birth to a boy or a girl, but if she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 doves, 2 pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for her, and she will be clean." Verse 13, the regulations about defiling the skin diseases. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When anyone has a swelling or rash or skinny spot on their skin, maybe a defying skin disease, they must be brought to Aaron, the priest, or to his sons, who is a priest. The priest is examined sores on the skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white, and the sore appears to be more than the skin deep, it is defying skin disease. When the priest examines the person, he shall pronounce them ceremonially unclean. If the skin spot of a skin is white but does not appear to be more than a skin deep, or hair in that has not turned white deep, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees that the sore is unchangeable and not spread to the skin, he is to isolate them for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them again. If the sore has faded and has not spread to the other skin, the priest has to announce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the rash does spread in their skin, and after they have shown themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine that person, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defying skin disease. When anyone has a defying skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned their hair white, and if there is a raw flesh that is swelling, it is a chronic disease, and the priest shall pronounce them unclean. He is to isolate them because they are already unclean. If the body breaks out all over their skin, and so far as a priest can see, it covers all their skin of affected person from head to foot, the priest is to examine them, and if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has turned all white while they are clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. They have a defying disease. If raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if the sores have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean. Then they will be clean. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals, and the other place where the boil was is a white swelling or reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. The priest is to examine it, and if it appears to be more than a skin deep, then the hair is turned white. The priest shall pronounce the person unclean. It is a defying skin disease that has broken out where the boil was. But if when the priest examines it, then there is no white hair in it, it is not more when the skin deep has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. If it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defying disease. But if the spot is unchangeable and has spread, it is only a scar from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When someone has a burn on their skin, any reddish or white spot that appears in the raw flesh of the burn, the priest is to examine the spot, and if the hair in it is turned white, and it appears to be more skin deep, it is the defying skin disease. The priest shall pronounce them unclean. But if the priest examines it and there is no white in the spot, and if it is not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the person, and if it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, but has faded, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce them clean, if it only is a scar from the burn. If a man or a woman has a sore on their head or chin, the priest is to examine the sore. If it appears to be more than the skin deep, and their hair in it is yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defying skin disease on the head or the chin. But if the priest examines the sore and it does not seem to be more than skin deep and there is no black hair in it, then the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore. If it has not spread and there is no yellow hair in it does not appear to be more than skin deep, then the man or woman must shave themselves, except for the affected area. The priest is to keep them isolated another 7 days, and on the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread in the skin, and not more than skin deep, the priest shall pronounce them clean. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the sore does spread in the skin, after they are pronounced clean, the priest is to examine them, and if he finds that the sore has spread in the skin, he does not need to look for yellow hair. They are unclean. If however the sore is unchanged so far as the priest can see, and if black hair has grown in it, the affected person is healed. They are clean, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. A man who has lost their hair and is bald is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and bald to the forehead, he is clean. But if he has a reddish white sore on his bald head or forehead, it is a defying skin disease breaking out of his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swollen sore on the head or forehead is reddish, like a defying skin disease, the man is diseased and unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of a sore on his head. Anyone with such a defying disease must wear torn clothes, not to let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face, and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." As long as they have a disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. Regulations about defying the mold. As for any fabric that is spoiled and defying a mold, any woolen or linen clothing, any woven or knitted material of linen, or wool or any leather, or anything of leather, if the affected area of a fabric of leather and the woven or knitted material, or any leather article is greenish or reddish, it is a defying mold and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the affected area, isolate the article for 7 days. On the 7th day, he is to examine it, and if the mold has spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather, whether it is used, it is persistent defying mold, the article is unclean. He must burn the fabric and woven or knitted material or wool, linen or any other leather article that has been spoiled, because the defying mold is persistent. The article must be burned. But when the priest examines it, the mold has not spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or leather article, he shall order the spoiled article to be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it again, and if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it, no matter which side of the fabric has been spoiled. If when the priest examines it, the mold has faded after the article has been washed, he is to tear the spoiled part of the fabric, the leather or the woolen or the woven or the knitted material. But if it reappears in the fabric, in the woven or knitted material, or the leather article, it is a spreading mold. Whatever has the mold must be burned. Any fabric, woven or knitted material of any leather article that has been washed and is rid of mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. These are the regulations concerning defying molds in woolen or linen clothing, woven or knitted material, or any leather article, pronouncing them clean or unclean. Cleansing from defying skin diseases. The Lord said to Moses, "There are the regulations of any diseased person at the time of their ceremonial cleansing, when they are brought to the priest. The priest is to go outside the camp, examine them. If they have healed their defying skin disease, the priest shall order that 2 live clean birds and some cedar wood, scalenian, and hyssop be brought to the person to be cleansed. Then the priest shall order that one of the birds be killed over fresh water in a clay pot. He is then to take the live bird and dip it together with the cedar wood and scarlet yarn and the hyssop into the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. 7 times he shall sprinkle the one he cleansed on the defying disease, then pronounce them clean. After he's released the live bird in the open field, the person to be cleansed must wash their clothes, shave off all their hair, and bathe with water. Then they will be ceremonially clean. After this, they may come into the camp, but they must stay outside their tent for 7 days. And on the seventh day, they must shave off all their hair. They must shave their head, their beard, their eyebrows, and the rest of their hair. They must wash their clothes and bathe themselves with water, and they will be clean. On the eighth day, they must bring 2 male lambs, 1 ewe lamb, a year old, each without defeat, along with 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, and the log of oil. The priest who pronounces them clean shall present both, the one to be cleansed and the other offerings before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of the meeting. Then the priest is to take out one of the male lambs, offer it as guilt offering along the log of oil. He shall wave before the Lord as a wave offering. He is to slaughter the lamb and burnt offering. Like the sin offering, the guilt offerings belong to the priest. It is most holy. The priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it in the lobe of the right ear of the one that is being cleansed, on the thumb of their right hand, on the big toe of their right foot. The priest shall take some of the log of oil, pour it on the palm of his own left hand, dip it in his right forefinger into the oil of his palm, and with his finger sprinkle some of it before the Lord 7 times. The priest is to put some of the oil remaining in his palm on the lobe of the right ear of the person to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand. Then the priest is to sacrifice the sin of offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed from their uncleanliness. After that, the priest shall slaughter the burnt offering and offer it to the altar, together with the grain offering, and make atonement for them. They will be clean. If, however, they are poor and cannot afford these items, they must make 1 lamb as a guilt offering, to be waved to atonement as of the finest flour with olive oil for a grain offering, a log of oil, and 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, such as they can afford, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. On the 8th day, they must bring them for their cleansing to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. The priest is to take the lamb for the guilt offering together with the log of oil and wave before the Lord as a wave offering. He shall slaughter the lamb for the guilt offering and take some of the blood and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the person to be cleansed, on the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of their right foot. The priest is to pour some of the oil into the palm and on his own left hand, and this right finger sprinkle some of the oil from his palm 7 times before the Lord. Some of the oil in his palm is to be put on some places he put the blood of the guilt offering, on the lobe of the right ear, the one to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand, on the big toe of their right foot. The rest of the oil in his palm, the priest shall put it on the forehead of the one to be cleansed, to make atonement for them before the Lord. Then he shall sacrifice the doves or the young pigeons, such as the person can afford, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, together with the grain offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement before the Lord on behalf of the one to be cleansed. These are the regulations for anyone who has a defying skin disease and cannot afford regular offerings for their cleansing. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When you enter the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as a possession, and I put a spreading mold in a house in that land, the owner of the house must go and tell the priest, I have seen something that looks like a defying mold in a house. The priest is to order the house to be emptied before he goes into to examine the mold, so that nothing in the household will be pronounced unclean. After this, the priest is to go in and inspect the house. He is to examine the mold on the walls, and if the greenish or reddish depressions that appear to be deeper than the surface of the wall, the priest shall go out to the doorway of the house and close it up for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest shall return to inspect the house. In the case that the mold has spread on the walls, he is to order the contaminated stones to be torn and thrown out into an unclean place outside the house. He must have all inside walls of the house scrubbed, and the material that was wrapped off dumped into an unclean place outside the town. Then they are to take the other stones to replace with new clay and plaster the house. If the defying mold reappears in the house after the stones have been torn out and the house scraped and plastered, the priest is to examine if the mold has spread in the house. If it is persistent, the defying mold, the house is pronounced unclean. It must be torn down, its stones, timbers, and all the plaster, and taken out of the town as it is to an unclean place. Anyone who goes into the house which is closed up with will be unclean till evening. Anyone who sleeps or eats in the house must wash their clothes. But if the priest comes to examine it and the mold has not spread after the house has been plastered, he shall pronounce the house clean, because the defying mold is gone. To purify the house, he is to take 2 buds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop. He shall kill one of the buds over fresh waters in a clay pot. Then he shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop, the quicet yam and the live bud, dip it into the blood of the dead bud and the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall purify the house with the bud's blood, the fresh water, the live bud's cedar wood, and the hyssop and the scarlet yarn. Then he is to release the live bud in open fields outside the town. In this way, he will make atonement for the house, and it will be clean. These are the regulations for any defying skin disease, for a sore, for defying molds in a fabric or in a house, and for swelling or rash or a skinny spot to determine whether something is clean or unclean. These are the regulations for defying skin diseases and defying molds. Discharges causing uncleanliness. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Speak to the Israelites and tell to them, when any man has an unusual bodily discharge, such as discharge is clean, whether it continues flowing from his own body or it is blocked, it will make him unclean. This is how his discharge will bring out uncleanliness. Any bed the man with a discharge lies on will be unclean, and anything he sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. However, whoever sits on anything that the man with a discharge sat on must wash their clothes and bathe with water. Then they will be clean till evening. They will be unclean till evening. Whoever touches the man who has a discharge must wash their clothes and bathe with water. They will be unclean till evening. Everything the man sits on when riding will be unclean, and whoever touches any of the things that were under him will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up those things must wash their clothes and bathe with water. They will be unclean till evening. Anyone the man with a discharge touches without rinsing his hands with water must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. A clay pot that the man touches must be broken, and any wood article is to be rinsed with water. When a man is cleansed from his discharge, he is to count off 7 days with his ceremonial cleansing. He must wash his clothes, bathe himself with fresh water, and he will be clean. On the 8th day, he must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, come before the Lord to the entrance of the tent of the meeting, and give them to the priest. The priest is to sacrifice them, one for the sin offering and the other for the burnt offering. In this way, he will make atonement before the Lord for the man because of his discharge. When a man has emission of semen, he must bathe his whole body with water, and he will be unclean till evening. Any cloth or leather that has semen on it must be washed with water. It will be unclean till evening. When a man has sexual relationship with a woman, and there is an emission of semen, both of them must bathe with water. They will be unclean till evening. When a woman has the irregular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean, and anything she sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches her bed will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water. They will be unclean till evening. Anyone who touches anything she sits on will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whether it is the bed or anything she was sitting on, when anyone touches it, they will be unclean till evening. If a man has sexual relations with her and her monthly flow touches him, he will be unclean for 7 days. Any bed he lies on will be unclean. When a woman has a discharge of blood for many days at a time, other than her monthly period, or has a discharge that continues beyond her period, she will be unclean as long as she has a discharge, just as the 7 days of her period. Any bed she lies on while her discharge continues will be unclean, as is her bed during her monthly period, and anything she sits on will be unclean during the period. Anyone who touches them will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. When she is cleansed from her discharge, she must count off 7 days, and after she will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, she must take 2 doves or 2 younger pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest is to sacrifice one for the sin offering and the other for the burnt offering. In this way, the Lord will make atonement for her before the Lord and the uncleanness of her discharge. You must keep the Israelites separate from these things and make them unclean, so they will not die in their uncleanness or defying my dwelling place, which is among them. These are the regulations for a man with a discharge, for anyone made unclean by an emission of semen, for a woman in their monthly period, for a man or a woman with a discharge, and for a man who has sexual relations with a woman who is ceremonially unclean. This was the word of God from the book of Leviticus. Thank you. Have a good evening.